Hello everyone, and welcome back to Quiet Knowledge. Tonight we're going to explore a vibrant and fascinating aspect of the ancient world, one that touches upon art, science, and our deep connection to the natural world. The lost art of natural dyes. Before the advent of synthetic pigments that flood our modern lives with every conceivable hue, ancient civilizations relied entirely on the colours they could extract from the plants, minerals, and even animals around them. Understanding how they achieved such rich and diverse palettes without the complex chemistry we know today is a testament to their ingenuity and keen observation of the natural world. As you settle in, perhaps imagine the rich blues of Egyptian textiles, the vibrant reds of Roman togas, or the deep yellows of Chinese imperial robes, all derived from simple, earthly sources. If you appreciate uncovering the intricate details of ancient crafts in a calming way, please hit the like button and subscribe. The world of colour in ancient times was a direct reflection of the environment. The vibrant hues that adorned clothing, textiles, art, and even the body were painstakingly derived from organic and inorganic materials found in their surroundings. This was not a simple process. It required a deep understanding of the natural world, knowing which plants yielded which colours, where to find specific minerals, and even how to extract dyes from certain insects or shellfish. It was a form of applied botany, geology, and even zoology, passed down through generations of artisans and dyers. The primary source of colour for ancient dyers was the plant kingdom. From humble roots to delicate petals, nearly every part of a plant could potentially yield a dye. Roots like madder provided rich reds, leaves like woad offered blues, flowers such as saffron or weld gave vibrant yellows, bark like that of oak or sumac could produce browns and blacks. Even fruits and berries like pomegranate rinds or berry juices contributed to the spectrum, though often less colour fast. The key was knowing which plant, which part, and the precise method of extraction to unlock the desired hue. Minerals, though less ubiquitous as a source of vibrant colours for textiles, also played a role, particularly for pigments used in paints and sometimes in dyeing coarser materials. Ochre, rich in iron oxides, provided a range of yellows, browns and reds. Lapis lazuli, a prized blue stone, could be ground into a pigment, though its cost often limited its use to the elite. Other minerals contributed to blacks, whites and earth tones. Finally, the animal kingdom offered a few but often highly prized sources of colour. The most famous is perhaps Tyrian purple, a vibrant and incredibly expensive dye derived from the secretions of certain Mediterranean sea snails. The process of extraction was laborious, requiring thousands of snails to produce a small amount of dye, making it a colour associated with royalty and extreme wealth. Certain insects, like cochineal from the Americas, though its use spread globally after its discovery, yielded intense reds and scarlets. The world of ancient colour was a testament to human observation, experimentation, and the intimate relationship between civilizations and their natural environment. Without the synthetic chemistry that defines our modern dyes, they unlocked a spectrum of hues using the simple yet complex resources of the earth. While the natural world offered a vast palette of potential colours, unlocking those hues and fixing them onto fibres and textiles was a complex and often laborious process. The most readily available and widely used source of dyes for ancient civilizations was the plant kingdom, with dyers developing intricate knowledge of which species and which parts, roots, leaves, flowers, bark or fruits, held the desired pigments. The general process for extracting plant-based dyes involved several key steps. First, the plant material had to be gathered, often in significant quantities. Then it required preparation, which might include drying, crushing, grinding, or even fermenting the plant matter to release the colour compounds. Finally, the dye itself was extracted, typically by soaking the prepared plant material in water, sometimes with the application of heat to create a dye liquor. One of the most important and widely used plant-based dyes was indigo, the source of deep and lasting blues. The process of extracting indigo, particularly from plants like woad, common in Europe and parts of Asia, was a fascinating example of ancient chemistry. It often involved a fermentation process in large vats. The plant leaves were steeped in water, and through fermentation, a colourless compound was produced. When fabric dipped in this vat was exposed to the air, oxidation occurred, magically turning the cloth a rich blue. Another crucial colour was red, often derived from the roots of the madder plant. The roots were harvested, carefully dried, and then ground into a powder. This powder was then boiled in water to extract the red dye. The final shade of red achieved with madder could be influenced by several factors, most notably the use of mordants, substances like alum, which helped the dye bond to the fibres. Different mordants could shift the hue of the madder dye towards brighter reds, oranges, or even purples. The pH of the dye bath also played a role. These examples highlight the time-consuming and labour-intensive nature of ancient dyeing. Gathering enough plant material, preparing it correctly, and then carefully extracting the dye liquor could take days or even weeks. The process often involved large vats, constant stirring, and careful temperature control, often achieved over open fires. While ancient dyers lacked a precise chemical understanding of why these processes worked, their empirical knowledge, honed through generations of practice, allowed them to unlock a remarkable range of colours from the seemingly simple resources of the plant world. Beyond the blues of indigo and the reds of madder, the plant world offered a spectrum of other colours that ancient dyers skillfully coaxed from its various parts. Yellows, ranging from bright sunshine hues to rich golds, were often derived from sources like saffron, the intensely coloured stigmas of the crocus sativus flower. The process of harvesting saffron was painstaking, requiring thousands of delicate stigmas to yield a small amount of dye, making it a valuable colourant often associated with royalty and the elite. Other yellow dyes came from the weld plant, Reseda luteola, where the leaves and stems were boiled to release their golden pigment, and from the roots of turmeric, Curcuma longa, which provided a more earthy yellow. Blacks and browns, the fundamental dark shades, were typically obtained from the bark of trees rich in tannins, such as oak and walnut. The process often involved crushing or boiling the bark to extract the tannins, which could then be used to dye fibres directly, or, when treated with iron salts, a process known as saddening, could create deep blacks. Certain roots, and even galls, the abnormal growths on oak trees caused by insect larvae, were also valuable sources of these darker pigments, while reds, blues, yellows, and blacks form the core palette. Ancient dyers also experimented with other colours from the plant world. Greens could be achieved from leaves or berries, though these were often less stable and prone to fading compared to other natural dyes. Purples were more elusive, sometimes derived from lichens or certain types of berries, but often less vibrant or colour-fast than the famed Tyrian purple from shellfish. The specific flora of a region heavily influenced the available colour palette, with dyers developing specialised knowledge of their local plants. The art of plant-based dyeing was a testament to patience and observation. Dyers learned through trial and error, passed down knowledge and regional specialisation, which plants yielded the most vibrant and lasting colours, and the precise methods needed to extract and fix those hues onto different types of fibres, laying the foundation for the colourful textiles that defined the ancient world. While the plant world was the most accessible and widely utilised source of colour for ancient dyers, the mineral and animal kingdoms also offered unique and sometimes highly prized hues. Though perhaps less common for dyeing textiles on a large scale, these sources contributed significantly to the ancient palette and held particular value in certain contexts. Mineral dyes provided a range of often earthy tones. Ochre, a naturally occurring clay containing iron oxides, was readily available in various shades of yellow, red and brown. The process of using ochre was relatively simple, involving grinding the raw material into a fine powder and then mixing it with a binder to create pigments for paints, or, occasionally, using it in a more direct process to dye coarser fibres. Other minerals, like the vibrant blue lapis lazuli, could be ground into a pigment, but its rarity and cost often restricted its use to the creation of precious paints rather than widespread textile dyeing. The animal kingdom, though offering fewer sources, yielded some of the most intense and historically significant colours. Cochineal, a vibrant red dye, was derived from tiny scale insects that live on prickly pear cacti, particularly in the Americas. The process involved carefully gathering, drying, and then crushing these insects to extract the rich carminic acid that produced brilliant reds and scarlets. Once its source was known globally, cochineal became a highly valued trade item. Perhaps the most famous and highly prized animal-derived dye was Tyrian purple, a colour associated with royalty and immense wealth throughout the ancient Mediterranean world. This luxurious hue was extracted from the secretions of certain species of Murex sea snails. The process was incredibly laborious, requiring thousands of snails to produce even a small amount of the intensely rich and remarkably colour-fast purple dye. Its rarity and the complexity of its production made it worth more than gold in many periods. While other, less common animal sources might have been used regionally, such as dyes derived from certain mollusks, or even the blood of specific creatures, cochineal and Tyrian purple stand out for their vibrancy and historical significance. The use of mineral and animal dyes, though often more specialised or costly than plant-based options, expanded the spectrum of colours available to ancient civilizations, allowing for distinctions in status, artistry and cultural expressions through the hues they wore and used. While the natural world provided the pigments for ancient dyes, the source itself was only half the equation. To truly unlock a lasting and vibrant colour on fibres and textiles, ancient dyers relied on the crucial process of mordanting. A mordant is a substance that acts as a binding agent, helping the dye molecules adhere permanently to the fabric. Without the proper mordant, many natural dyes would simply wash away or fade quickly, leaving behind only a pale shadow of their potential. The choice of mordant was almost as important as the choice of dye, and ancient dyers possessed extensive knowledge of various mordants and their effects. Common mordants included alum, a potassium aluminum sulfate, often derived from mineral deposits and one of the most widely used. Other mordants included compounds of tin, iron, often obtained from rusty metal or iron-rich earth, tannins extracted from bark or galls, and copper derived from minerals. Each mordant interacted differently with specific dyes and fibres, influencing not just the fastness of the colour, but also the final hue achieved. The timing of mordant application was also a key variable in the dyeing process. Mordants could be applied to the fibres before they were introduced to the dye bath, creating a receptive surface for the colour to bind to. They could also be added directly to the dye bath, helping the dye and fibre interact more effectively. In some cases, a post-mordanting process was used to further set the colour after dyeing. The precise timing and method of mordant application were carefully controlled by the dyer, based on experience and the specific dye and fibre being used. The most fascinating aspect of mordants was their ability to alter the final colour achieved with a single natural dye. For example, madder root, which typically produces reds, could yield a range of shades from brilliant scarlet to deep burgundy, or even oranges and purples, depending on whether the fibre was pre-treated with alum, iron, or tin as a mordant. This allowed ancient dyers to expand their palette significantly beyond the inherent colours of their natural sources, creating a wider spectrum of hues through the skillful manipulation of mordants. The careful selection and application of mordants were therefore a crucial and often complex part of the lost art of natural dyes. It required a deep understanding of the chemical interactions at play, even if that understanding was based on empirical observation rather than modern scientific knowledge. The dyer acted as a kind of alchemist, transforming simple plant, mineral, and animal pigments into a lasting array of colours through the magic of these intermediary substances, the mordants, which formed the essential bridge between the natural world and the vibrant textiles of ancient civilizations. The source of the dye and the use of a mordant were essential, but the techniques employed by ancient dyers to apply the colour to fibres and textiles were equally crucial in achieving the desired results. Different dyes and desired patterns required different methods, showcasing the skill and artistry of these early colourists. The simplest method was direct dyeing, where the fabric or yarn was simply immersed in the dye bath, often for extended periods, allowing the fibres to absorb the colour directly. This technique worked well for certain dyes that had a natural affinity for the fibres, such as some yellows and browns derived from barks or roots. The key was ensuring even saturation and achieving the desired depth of shade through careful timing and temperature control. For dyes like indigo, vat dyeing was required. As mentioned earlier, indigo needed to be chemically reduced in a vat to become soluble and able to bind to the fabric. This involved a specific process, often using fermentation or alkaline solutions. The fabric was dipped into the vat multiple times, and the characteristic blue colour only developed upon exposure to the air as the indigo oxidized. Creating patterns and intricate designs often involved resist dyeing techniques. In tie-dye, sections of the fabric were tightly bound with string, thread, or other materials before dyeing. These bound areas resisted the dye, creating patterns of undyed fabric against the coloured background. Evidence of tie-dye has been found in ancient textiles from various parts of the world. Another sophisticated resist technique was batik, where molten wax was applied to sections of the fabric to prevent dye penetration. After the wax hardened, the fabric was dyed. The wax could then be removed, revealing the undyed pattern. Multiple layers of waxing and dyeing could create complex multicoloured designs. While strongly associated with Southeast Asia today, evidence suggests wax resist dyeing was also practiced in ancient Egypt and other early civilizations. To achieve a wider range of colours and subtle variations, ancient dyers also employed layering and overdying. Fabric might be dyed in one colour, And then, after rinsing and sometimes drying, it would be immersed in a dye bath of a different colour, creating a new mixed hue. For example, over-dyeing yellow fabric with blue could produce shades of green. This required careful knowledge of how different dyes would interact and blend. The scale of dyeing operations varied greatly, from small household batches to large-scale workshops catering to trade. Achieving even and consistent colours, especially in larger quantities of fabric, demanded significant skill and experience. The ancient dyer was not just a technician but an artist, carefully manipulating materials and techniques to bring the colours of the natural world to the textiles that shaped their visual culture. Beyond their practical use in adorning textiles and other materials, colours in ancient civilizations often held profound cultural and symbolic meaning. The hues that people wore, used in their art, or incorporated into their rituals, were rarely arbitrary choices. Instead, they were often imbued with deep significance, representing power, status, religious beliefs, or even emotions. Understanding this symbolic language of colour provides another layer of appreciation for the lost art of natural dyes. In ancient Egypt, for example, colours held strong associations. Blue, often derived from lapis lazuli or indigo, was linked to royalty, the sky, and the life-giving waters of the Nile. Yellow, representing the sun and gold, was associated with divinity and eternity. Red, obtained from ochre or madder, symbolised life, fire, and sometimes anger or destruction. White represented purity and the sacred. Black, the colour of the fertile soil of the Nile, was associated with death and rebirth. These colour associations permeated Egyptian art, clothing, and religious practices. In the Roman Empire, too, colours carried weight. Purple, particularly Tyrian purple derived from sea snails, was famously associated with royalty, power, and the imperial class due to its rarity and expense. Red, often obtained from madder or kermes insects, was the colour of the military, associated with Mars, the god of war, and also worn for celebrations. White symbolised purity and citizenship, often worn in togas by Roman men. Black was typically the colour of mourning. Ancient China developed an intricate system of colour symbolism, deeply tied to philosophy and the ruling dynasties. Yellow was the most prestigious colour, reserved for the emperor and associated with the earth and the centre. Red symbolised good fortune, happiness, and prosperity, often used in celebrations and for important documents. White was the colour of mourning and purity. Black represented authority, knowledge, and sometimes water. These colour codes were strictly observed, particularly in clothing and imperial regalia. Beyond these major civilizations, colour symbolism existed across the ancient world. The vibrant Mayan blue, a complex pigment unique to their culture, held deep religious significance. The intricate textiles of the Andes were woven with a myriad of colours, each carrying symbolic meaning related to ancestry, social status, and cosmology. The careful selection of dyes and the resulting hues were integral to cultural expression and communication. The availability and cost of certain dyes often reinforced their symbolic power. The extreme expense of Tyrian purple, for instance, directly contributed to its association with royalty. The labour-intensive process of obtaining saffron made yellow a colour of prestige. The accessibility of ochre made earth tones more common among the lower classes. The very act of dyeing with a rare or difficult to obtain colour could denote status and wealth. Thus, the lost art of natural dyes was not just about creating beautiful colours, it was about weaving meaning into the fabric of ancient societies. a visual language that spoke volumes about power, belief, and identity. While the colours achieved by ancient dyers could be remarkably vibrant, their longevity and resistance to fading often differed from the permanence we expect from modern synthetic dyes. The light fastness, resistance to fading from sunlight, and wash fastness, resistance to bleeding or fading during washing, of natural dyes varied greatly depending on the dye source, the mordant used, the dyeing technique, and the type of fibre being dyed. Some natural dyes, like indigo, were known for their excellent light and wash fastness, creating colours that could last for centuries. The deep blues found in ancient textiles that have survived to this day are a testament to this durability. However, other natural dyes were more fugitive, prone to fading over time with exposure to light and washing, resulting in the often muted colours we see in very old textiles. The advent of synthetic dyes in the late 19th century, starting with William Henry Perkins' accidental discovery of mauve in 1856, marked a significant turning point in the history of colour. Synthetic dyes offered a wider spectrum of hues, often brighter and more intense than natural dyes, and generally possessed superior light and wash fastness. They were also easier to produce on a large scale, and significantly cheaper, revolutionising the textile industry and making vibrant colours accessible to the masses. The ease of use and cost-effectiveness of synthetic dyes led to the gradual decline of the widespread use of natural dyes for mass production. The intricate knowledge of plant sources, mineral extraction, and animal processing, along with the complex mordanting and dyeing techniques, became less essential for large-scale textile coloration. The lost art aspect of natural dyeing refers to this shift, where the deep understanding and widespread practice of these ancient skills diminished with the dominance of chemical alternatives. However, the art of natural dyeing has not been entirely lost. In recent decades, there has been a renewed interest in natural dyes among artisans, craftspeople, and environmentally conscious individuals. The unique character and often softer hues of natural dyes, their connection to local environments, and the desire for sustainable and non-toxic alternatives to synthetic chemicals have fueled this revival. Modern dyers are rediscovering and adapting ancient techniques, ensuring that the knowledge and artistry of colouring the world without harsh chemicals continue to exist. The transition from a world saturated in naturally derived colours to one dominated by synthetic hues was a profound shift, impacting not only the textile and art industries, but also our relationship with the environment and the knowledge systems that had been painstakingly developed over millennia. The ease and versatility of synthetic dyes offering a seemingly limitless palette at a fraction of the cost and effort proved irresistible for mass production and consumer demand. The intricate understanding of local flora, mineral deposits, and traditional dyeing methods, once vital skills, gradually faded from common knowledge, becoming the domain of specialised artisans and historical researchers. The sheer convenience of synthetic dyes cannot be overstated. Unlike the often lengthy and complex processes involved in extracting and fixing natural colours, synthetic dyes could be produced in factories with consistent results and applied to a wide range of fibres with relative ease. The vibrant and often more light-fast nature of these new colours also appealed to a market increasingly driven by novelty and affordability. The subtle nuances and regional variations inherent in natural dyes, often tied to specific growing conditions and traditional recipes, gave way to the standardised and predictable shades of the chemical revolution. However, This progress came at a cost. The production of many synthetic dyes involved harsh chemicals and created significant environmental pollution, a stark contrast to the often more sustainable practices associated with natural dyeing, though some historical mordants and animal-derived dyes also had their environmental drawbacks. The deep connection between colour and the natural world, the understanding of local ecosystems and their potential for dye production was largely savoured as reliance shifted to manufactured chemicals. The lost aspect of natural dyes also encompasses the erosion of traditional knowledge. The precise methods for extracting specific colours from particular plants, the knowledge of which mordants worked best with which dyes and fibres to achieve desired shades and fastness. This intricate web of understanding, built upon generations of experimentation and cultural transmission, risked disappearing altogether. While some written records and surviving textiles offered glimpses into this lost world, the hands-on expertise and the cultural context in which it thrived diminished significantly. The modern revival of interest in natural dyes represents an attempt to reclaim some of this lost knowledge and reconnect with a more sustainable and historically rich approach to colour. Artisans, historians, and environmentalists are working to rediscover ancient recipes, cultivate dye plants, and understand the nuances of these traditional methods. This revival is not just about recreating historical colours, but also about exploring the potential of natural dyes in a contemporary context, seeking alternatives to the environmental impact of synthetic pigments, and celebrating the beauty and complexity of the natural world's palette. The story of natural dyes is a reminder of the profound impact of technological change on our lives and our relationship with the environment. The shift to synthetic colours, while offering undeniable benefits in terms of accessibility and range, also led to a significant loss of traditional ecological knowledge and a severing of a deep connection to the natural world's artistry. The rediscovery of this lost art offers a chance to appreciate the ingenuity of ancient civilizations and to consider a more sustainable and colourful future. The exploration of natural dyes also offers a fascinating glimpse into the global interconnectedness of ancient civilizations, even before the ease of modern travel and trade. The presence of certain dyes in textiles found far from their origin points speaks to the movement of knowledge, materials, and finished goods across vast distances. The vibrant indigo found in Egyptian tombs, the cochineal reds adorning textiles from the Andes to Europe, and the precious Tyrian purple traded throughout the Mediterranean world all tell stories of ancient networks of exchange. The value placed on certain natural dyes also shaped economies and trade routes. The demand for rare and vibrant colours like Tyrian purple could drive extensive trade networks and even influence political power. Regions known for producing high-quality dye materials, such as the indigo-growing areas of India or the Kermes-producing regions of the Mediterranean, often held significant economic importance. The knowledge of how to extract and process these valuable dyes was a closely guarded secret, a source of wealth and influence for those who possessed it. The artistry involved in natural dyeing should not be underestimated. Achieving consistent, even colours on large quantities of fabric, creating intricate patterns using resist techniques, or layering dyes to produce new shades required immense skill, patience, and a keen eye. Dyers were respected artisans, their craft essential to the visual culture and economic prosperity of their communities. Their knowledge was a form of cultural heritage, passed down through apprenticeships and family traditions. The loss of this widespread knowledge with the dominance of synthetic dyes represents a severing of a tangible link to the past. The colours that clothed our ancestors, adorned their art, and symbolised their beliefs were often derived from the very ground they walked on, the plants that grew around them, and the creatures they shared their world with. Rediscovering this lost art allows us to appreciate the ingenuity and resourcefulness of ancient civilizations and to understand a world where colour was deeply connected to the natural environment. The subtle variations and unique character of natural dyes, often impossible to replicate perfectly with synthetic chemicals, offer a different aesthetic, one that speaks of the earth and the slow, patient processes of nature. As we explore this lost art, we gain a richer understanding of how ancient people perceived and interacted with their world, finding beauty and utility in the colours that surrounded them, a stark contrast to our modern world of manufactured hues. The exploration of natural dyes also offers a fascinating glimpse into the global interconnectedness of ancient civilizations, even before the ease of modern travel and trade. The presence of certain dyes in textiles found far from their origin points speaks to the movement of knowledge, materials, and finished goods across vast distances. The vibrant indigo found in Egyptian tombs, the cochineal reds adorning textiles from the Andes to Europe, and the precious Tyrian purple traded throughout the Mediterranean world all tell stories of ancient networks of exchange. The value placed on certain natural dyes also shaped economies and trade routes. The demand for rare and vibrant colours like Tyrian purple could drive extensive trade networks and even influence political power. Regions known for producing high-quality dye materials, such as the indigo-growing areas of India or the Kermes-producing regions of the Mediterranean, often held significant economic importance. The knowledge of how to extract and process these valuable dyes was a closely guarded secret, a source of wealth and influence for those who possessed it. The artistry involved in natural dyeing should not be underestimated. Achieving consistent, even colours on large quantities of fabric, creating intricate patterns using resist techniques, or layering dyes to produce new shades required immense skill, patience, and a keen eye. Dyers were respected artisans, their craft essential to the visual culture and economic prosperity of their communities. Their knowledge was a form of cultural heritage, passed down through apprenticeships and family traditions. The loss of this widespread knowledge with the dominance of synthetic dyes represents a severing of a tangible link to the past. The colours that clothed our ancestors, adorned their art, and symbolised their beliefs were often derived from the very ground they walked on, the plants that grew around them, and the creatures they shared their world with. Rediscovering this lost art allows us to appreciate the ingenuity and resourcefulness of ancient civilizations and to understand a world where colour was deeply connected to the natural environment. The subtle variations and unique character of natural dyes, often impossible to replicate perfectly with synthetic chemicals, offer a different aesthetic, one that speaks of the earth and the slow, patient processes of nature. As we explore this lost art, we gain a richer understanding of how ancient people perceived and interacted with their world, finding beauty and utility in the colours that surrounded them, a stark contrast to our modern world of manufactured hues. The global trade in natural dyes throughout history offers another fascinating and intricate layer to this lost art, revealing not just the movement of colour, but also the complex economic and cultural interconnections between ancient civilizations. Certain hues, prized for their vibrancy, rarity, or the symbolic weight they carried, transcended geographical boundaries to become highly sought-after commodities. traversing vast distances along well-established trade routes that also carried silks, spices, precious metals, and other valuable goods. The vibrant blues of indigo, cultivated extensively in the Indian subcontinent, were a staple of this long-distance trade, its superior quality and colour fastness making it a desirable commodity westward, colouring textiles across Persia, the Middle East, and eventually reaching Europe, where it often commanded a higher price than locally produced woad. The rich reds of cochineal, originating in the distant lands of the Americas, underwent a similar journey after the Spanish conquest, becoming a prized export to Europe, its intense scarlet hues adorning the luxurious fabrics of royalty, the vibrant uniforms of military elites like the iconic red coats of British soldiers, and the rich tapestries that decorated noble households. Tyrian purple, the ancient dye of emperors and kings, derived from the Mediterranean, maintained its legendary prestige and value, its production and trade often carefully controlled and monopolized by powerful entities. The movement of these natural dyes across continents was not merely a matter of commerce, it also facilitated a significant exchange of knowledge and cultural understanding. Alongside the dye stuffs themselves, information about dyeing techniques, the use of mordants, and even the symbolic meanings associated with different colours travelled along these trade routes. Dyers in distant lands might learn new methods or discover previously unknown colour sources through these exchanges. The presence of exotic dyes in archaeological finds far from their origin points serves as tangible evidence of these ancient global connections, offering a fascinating glimpse into the intricate networks of demand and supply that characterised the pre-industrial world and the high value placed on the artistry and transformative power of colour. The economic impact of this trade could be substantial, with regions specialising in the cultivation or extraction of prized dyes often wielding considerable influence and wealth. The secrets of their craft were closely guarded, contributing to their market power and ensuring the continued flow of valuable colour across the ancient world. In conclusion, the lost art of natural dyes unveils a rich and multifaceted story of human ingenuity, ecological awareness, and profound cultural expression that spanned millennia. Ancient civilizations, intimately connected to their natural environments, possessed a deep understanding of the world around them, skillfully transforming simple plants, minerals, and even creatures into a breathtaking spectrum of colours that adorned their lives, communicated their status and beliefs, and facilitated intricate networks of trade across vast distances. The meticulous processes of extracting pigments, the crucial role of mordants in fixing these hues, and the diverse techniques employed to create patterns and shades all stand as testaments to the artistry and resourcefulness of early human societies. The advent of synthetic dyes in the late 19th century, while undeniably democratizing colour and revolutionizing industries, led to a significant erosion of this traditional knowledge and severed a tangible link to the historical, cultural, and ecological significance of natural colorants, a loss that we are only now beginning to fully appreciate in our modern pursuit of sustainability and a deeper connection to the earth. The modern resurgence of interest in natural dyes represents more than just a nostalgic return to the past. It signifies a growing awareness of the environmental costs associated with synthetic chemicals and a renewed appreciation for the unique beauty, subtle variations, and inherent sustainability of colours derived from the earth. Contemporary artisans, historians, and environmentalists are diligently working to rediscover ancient recipes, cultivate traditional dye plants, and adapt time-honoured techniques for a modern context, ensuring that this vibrant and meaningful art form continues to enrich our world. The story of natural dyes, therefore, serves as a powerful reminder of the profound impact of technological change, the enduring value of traditional ecological knowledge, and the timeless human quest for beauty and meaning in the colours that surround us. A quest that for so long was answered by the intricate and often magical transformations wrought by the lost art of natural dyes.